I think they're more of a season spoiler for another program than they are a surprise college football playoff team.
Fans across America about what's expected about teams.
You've got some overrated and underrated teams that just jump out to you.
We are going to judge a coach's failure based on how they perform.
How bad did the coaches botch where they have certain teams ranked in the preseason? It's very unlikely they're going to predict the national champion. We love a good poll.
We do. Huge fans of the poll.
Yeah.
We've always said that on this show.
We don't really watch. We don't participate.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
June's our favorite month. It all really clicked for us at some point. Yeah, it's big.
I don't despise them, but it does. It irritates me with the preseason top 25s and all that because
it gives you a jump start.
It's a jump start, but it's also crippling for some. You know, because you're judged based on the outlook of a preseason poll where it's very unlikely they're going to predict the national champion. The last time that the coaches predicted the national champion, number one in the country, was back with Alabama in like 2013 or 14, I believe. All that to be said, it gives you a jump start, as Chad mentioned, but it's also unrealistic until we see these teams play with all the changes because it's very make up the rules as you go. And hear me out here, because a lot of this is, they have a lot of returning starters back. So the continuity's there. We saw them win 9 games. Here we go. You know, defense is back intact. The quarterback's back. And then on the other hand, you have a team like, they were great in the portal. Great in the portal. They added this coach or that coach. That's the exact opposite of the reasons why you would make the argument for or against a team. Here's the coaches poll that was released, the top 25. Texas is number 1, Ohio State number 2. The good thing about this is we get to see them play week 1.
Yep. They'll cross each other out in week 1.
Good.
Not for the running for the season, but we'll know who 1 or 2 is after the first week.
Absolutely. And Texas on the road there in a true road game at the Horseshoe. Can't wait for that. You've got your typical big programs high on the list here. But, Chad, as you scan through this, you've got some overrated and underrated teams that just jump out to you. And certainly I'll add into this as well. But just start with the overrated. Let's go overrated first here, because I think that'll jump out first.
Well, and I want our team here to leave this up just for a second, because I do want to look at this configuration of teams. And to add on to your point, Hutton, about preseason top 25 and what that does.
Yep.
To set expectation, to give some teams a jump start into whatever they're going to be whenever college football rankings are announced.
That's right.
It sets the perception of fans across America about what's expected about teams. Here's also what it does. And I'm not going to sit here and cry poor for these coaches or anything else, but it is a little bit unfair at times that we are going to judge a coach's failure based on how they perform to these artificial expectations set by coaches and AP members right before a season. So if you are a team that we're going to be talking about here soon, South Carolina, let's say, if you're not in the college football playoff,
right,
or right there on the doorstep of it, your season is going to be seen as a failure. Now, if you are a team right now, let's say Arkansas, that's out of the top 25, if you finish 21st, no realistic shot at the playoff berth, but you win a bowl game and you finish in the top 25, that is a success for Sam Pittman.
It is.
But if Sam Pittman was preseason 9th and they finished 22nd or 21st, then that's a failure. I just say that to say that's how we end up judging expectations and if they're met or not for a coach.
Absolutely. And I would also add in, some of these rankings I feel like are very fair for the programs for where they are. But there are some glaring teams that stand out.
Yeah, so I don't have any huge objections, but I'm going to get into the 3, to me, biggest overrated teams in this first poll and the 3 biggest underrated teams. And Hutton and I are going to discuss.
Yep.
Let's start with my first overrated team. Sorry, Colin. Notre Dame at number 5, to me, is overrated. Okay, they lose Riley Leonard, who was the heart and soul of their team a year ago, especially offensively. He was everything. Huge part of their run game. We saw that throughout their playoff run. Obviously, the biggest part of their passing game. He's gone. Now, they have a 5-star quarterback in C.J. Carr that we really don't know much about. Jeremiah Love is back in the backfield. He is going to be a Heisman contender as a running back. Their offense is going to be good, They lose quite a bit defensively. They return 5 starters. So they lose 7 guys on that defense that last year was lights out.
Lights out.
To quote the great Sean Merriman, lights out defense a year ago. They lose a lot from that. And their schedule, Hut, at Miami to open the season. They get A&M coming to their place
Huge.
this year. I think a sneaky, tough game. It's not easy to go to Fayetteville. They go to Arkansas this year. And the Tennessee Vols found that out a year ago against a not great Arkansas team. Even in really bad years, that's a tough place to win. So at Arkansas is going to be tough. They get Boise State at home. They get USC at home. Not a daunting schedule. But going into the season, Hutton, I see them not as outside the top 25. I see them more like 14 or 15.
See, I see
and
them,
not 5th in the country.
I see them top 10. I think this is pretty fair because if you view Notre Dame back with an elite defense and they're going 2-1 against the big 3 games, Miami, Texas A&M, and USC, they're in the college football playoff. That's how I would view them if they're 2-1 in that 3-game stretch. If they're 10-2 at the end of the season, then you're getting into the strength of schedule and all this. I still think they're in the college football playoff at that point as an at-large.
Yeah.
So I think this is fair based on my view of them. If they were just anywhere in the top 10 from 5 to 10, bottom half of the top 10, I think is fair for where I saw them at the end of the year. The defense is back, will be elite. Offensive line, run game, they can control the pace of games. I love their coach.
Yeah.
I don't think it's unfair for us to expect Notre Dame to finish top 10.
Yeah, and again, I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be a top 15 team throughout the year. But 5 to me, a little bit high.
They're underrated last year going into the year.
Correct.
We kind of just floated through the season and never really talked about them. Now expectations are there.
Let's go to my next overrated team because this is another example of that. We didn't think anything at all about Illinois going into last year. Not one bit.
I still haven't.
They were the sneakiest 10-win team in America.
I agree because they never are 10.
And I remember when all the talk was Ole Miss got shafted or South Carolina got shafted from the college football playoff. Everyone in the Big Ten came to the defense of, hey, here's how Illinois got shafted at 9-3.
Let's play the blind test
from the college football playoff. And I think a lot of people were shocked to see Illinois. Oh, yeah, Illinois is 9-3. They had a really good year.
Yeah, 10 wins for only the 5th time in program history. Like they don't reach that mark.
Terrific accomplishment at Illinois. For Brett Bielema to win 10 games, I am not going to say that's not a huge accomplishment because it's a gigantic accomplishment at Illinois.
Yeah.
But when you look inside of their season a little bit more closely, you see some things that could give you cause for concern this year. Here's one of them. 5 of their 10 wins were by 1 score or less. They beat Purdue, who was awful. I mean, truly awful a year ago by 1 point, 50-49 in overtime at home. So they were very fortunate. Now, you got to be a good team. You got to close to win close games, but very fortunate. Half of their games was by a touchdown or less in their wins a year ago. They get Luke Altmaier back. He had a chance to transfer to a number of programs. He didn't. He stayed there. 15 starters return. I get the preseason hype. I understand why coaches will say Illinois is there at number 12. But, Hutton, I'm looking at that from a year ago thinking they got really lucky in a lot of games, and I'm seeing the schedule this year at Duke, at Indiana, USC, Ohio State, at Washington, at Wisconsin. This is another team. I don't think they're an outright failure.
No.
I think they're going to finish more around 23rd nationally and not in the top 15.
I was going to say around 20 because I with all the players back, it feels like this roster has hit their ceiling, and they did it last year. 11 starters returned on defense. Now, 3 of them were starters for Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they've got their back 7 all return on defense. I like the makeup. They are the opposite of Kansas State. Kansas State lost a lot of 1-score games, and Illinois won those last year. Confident head coach who doesn't like Shane Beamer all that much.
No.
And look, their schedule doesn't set up well for them. I think they're more of a season spoiler for another program than they are a surprise college football playoff team.
An excellent job mentioning in passing there 2 teams that we will continue to talk about. First team that I do want to mention, though, is South Carolina. I think they're overrated. Lenore Sellers was terrific. I didn't see that coming. They opened last year, if you remember this, Hutton, with a last-minute touchdown at home against Old Dominion. when they were trailing in that game to win, I think 24-21 or something like that. They went on the road to Kentucky, double-digit underdog in week 2.
Yes.
And they put it on the Wildcats.
Dominated them.
In that game. And that really set the tone for both seasons. Kentucky, bad, 4-8 a year ago. People thought they were going to be more than they were. They were terrible. South Carolina was a pleasant surprise last year. Way better than I thought. Lenora Sellers, way better than I thought. I think they're not a top 15 team. They lost almost everything on defense. That defense was 4th best in the SEC a year ago. They lose their entire front. Now, they do get Dylan Stewart, sorry. I get the two Dylans mixed up. Dylan Stewart is back. Great edge rusher as a freshman a year ago.
Their interior line's gone.
They lost their stud at safety also. Lost most of their defensive line. I think they're going to struggle more on defense this year. That defense really helped them in a lot of close games a year ago. They open with Virginia Tech in Atlanta, neutral site game. They go to Baton Rouge. They get Bama at home. They go to Ole Miss. They go to College Station to take on A&M. And we all know how they end their season every year against preseason number 2 Clemson, and they get them at home. They've had good success against the Tigers. But I'm just looking at those games right there. I think they're losing to LSU. They're losing to Bama. They're losing at Ole Miss. They're losing at A&M. And they're losing to Clemson. That's a 7-5 football team.
So that's the view. What you just said is the view I always have of them.
Yeah.
The stretch where it really matters for South Carolina on if they're for real is they need to go into those games dominating. They start slow out of the gate. Not this season. I'm saying just traditionally. They start slow. Virginia Tech, they need to put it on them. And then they've got Vandy, Missouri, Kentucky before a bye week. And then they start this stretch with LSU and Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss. But they have Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Kentucky. A month stretch that they have to win. That's a 3-0 stretch for South Carolina to meet expectations based on what the coaches are telling us. And if Lenore Sellers is a Heisman Trophy winner, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Kentucky aren't going to be watched by many of the voters. He's got to dominate those games. Mm-hmm. Because the games that are going to be viewed are LSU and Alabama and Ole Miss and Texas A&M and certainly Clemson.
Yep.
And we're going to forget about the front half of the season. That's the games where and again, they start slow. They have to come out of the gate swinging.
Well, big opportunity is that Virginia Tech game is on a Sunday. They get their own prime window on Sunday afternoon of Labor Day weekend in Atlanta. That's the only game that's going to be on. So everyone's going to watch Virginia Tech in South Carolina. And it's a great showcase for Lenore Sellers and his Heisman campaign.
Hey, this is right where they were last year. On the outside of the college football playoff looking in, where they're ranked.
Yeah.
So it's where they're finished, basically.
And that's what I'm talking about, expectation. Illinois and South Carolina, if you're going to exceed expectations or meet it, you're in the playoff at the very tail end of it.
Yeah, because last year
that's what the coaches are telling the fan bases right now.
It was a great job last year.
That's going to be their expectation.
Yeah, totally agree.
Tennessee a year ago started right there, 12, 13, 14, 15, right in the low teens, and it was a success is making a college football playoff. They did that.
They got in.
That was going to be the success. That was the barometer for it, and they did it. That's the same thing now for South Carolina and Illinois. Those are my overrated teams. Notre Dame, South Carolina, Illinois. Let's get to the underrated teams based on the coaches. I love A&M. They come in ranked 21st. I think Marcel Reed is a star in the making. I love his demeanor. We are biased here in Nashville. We covered the kid at Montgomery Bell Academy. We saw state championship games he's a part of. He's the son of a coach. Rod Reed, longtime coach at TSU. He gets it. Like, listen to him in any interview.
He's a baller.
And his poise and his ability to break games open, arm or feet, he's a terrific talent. I love Marcel Reed and that offense.
You get some help.
Hutton, trivia question for you. Did you know that Texas A&M was the highest scoring offense in the SEC a year ago in SEC games?
I did not know that.
They averaged almost 30 points per game in the SEC. Highest scoring offense. We think Mike Elko. We think a defensive mastermind. They were terrible on defense last year. 13th against the pass. They weren't much better against the run. I think that Mike Elko, given his defensive pedigree, he's going to figure it out in year 2. We see this a lot with coaches that have an intricate system. Year 1, it doesn't click. By year 2, you see a big change with that group. I think his defense is going to play lights out this year. Adding KC Concepcion from NC State.
Concepcion.
Mario Craver from Mississippi State to pair with Marcel Reed for those two wideouts. Hutton, I love this A&M team. Preseason 21st. They got at Notre Dame early. They go to LSU. They go to Texas. I think the rest of their schedule is manageable.
Yeah, they have 4 of the bottom 6 SEC teams. If we're just looking in, I mean, that's not SEC schedule's not easy, but it shapes up on the backside of things to be okay for them.
I think they're 9-3, and they're at the end of the college football playoff. I think they'll be in at 9-3 and be a college football playoff team with that record. So I like A&M to over-deliver on that preseason 21st ranking. Hutton, you mentioned them earlier, the K-State Wildcats. Avery Johnson is a star in college football. They're getting all the accolades, preseason Big 12. They're picked very high. Many people have them picked to win that conference.
It's a safe pick.
This is also a schedule play to me. Okay. Kansas State's coming in ranked 20th. Let me give you their toughest games on the year.
Go ahead.
They open in 2 weeks against Iowa State on August 23rd in Dublin, Ireland, in that game overseas to open the season.
Okay.
That's a big one, and that's going to be a tough one. If they get through that, they got one other ranked team on their schedule. They go to Baylor, which was a fringe top 25 team. That'll be tough. They get Texas Tech at home. Texas Tech's 24th. That's it. No other preseason ranked teams on their schedule.
The problem is they have a new offensive line. Offensive coordinator. Matt Wells comes in. Matt Wells worked with Jordan Love at Utah State. I think that's good for Kansas State and what they're doing. But Chad, I don't look at the ranked teams that they're facing. I look at how bad their pass defense was. It doesn't matter what quarterback they're facing. They're giving up yards and points.
Yeah, that game against TCU is going to be a shootout when they play them.
Yeah, man. But they are consistent.
Yeah, I think
they are
a
consistent team year in and year out.
I think they're the type of team that they can outscore a lot of their opponents. Now, there are other tricky stops. They go to Oklahoma State. We would assume Gundy's team is going to be far better than a year ago. Yeah, they were terrible last year. I don't know what happened to Oklahoma State. What happened was Mike Gundy took a pay cut and changed his contract because they were so bad. He didn't have to. Yeah, he said, he fell on the sword and said, this was awful. You can pay me less now because this isn't good enough. And they go to Utah,
cut his hair,
which is always a tough road trip. Big mistake to cut the mullet. But I like K-State over-delivering on preseason expectation. The other one is, you can call this a homer pick all you want for where all my in-laws live. Nebraska is going to finish in the top 25. They're not in the preseason top 25. Nebraska, when I look at their schedule, I think they're 8-4 at worst, possibly 9-3, and looking at a possible playoff bid. This is a very, very manageable schedule for the Huskers. They open on Friday night at Arrowhead Stadium in KC against Cincinnati to start college football. Akron, Houston Christian, they get Michigan at home. That's going to be tough, but that's a winnable game at home. Michigan State should be a win. At Maryland, at Minnesota. Hutton, their away games, Maryland, Minnesota, UCLA, all very winnable for Dylan Raiola and Nebraska. The game at Penn State, likely a loss. They get Iowa at home. That's always tough. But, show me 4 losses even on that schedule right now, and I'm having a hard time finding them.
Well, 2 years ago, we were discussing.
They've been able to surprise with some losses in recent years. We know that. But I think this is we've seen it with year 3 now for Matt Rhule. And everywhere he's been in year 3, they've hit.
I was going to say, we quickly forget that it's year 3 for Matt Rhule, and this is the lineup set for Nebraska for year 3 for him. If we're going to boast as a media or as a college football fan base about Matt Rhule in year 3, and here it comes, this is a layup schedule for that. And I know that they're replacing their front on defense. Their offensive line's back. They can run the football. That's Nebraska. And hey, they've done a great job, Tony White, with the defense. So of the 13 defensive coordinators, there are 13 defensive coordinators that were hired in 2023 that stayed all the way through 2024 as well. And the defense kept getting better. Let's go Black Shirts.
Black Shirts are back, baby. I listened to an interview with Matt Rhule recently, and shout out to Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. It was on their network, but it wasn't their show. It was on their podcast network, but it was someone else hosting. I don't know if it was like a fill-in day with someone else. Don't know who was hosting the show, but they interviewed Matt Rhule. And I love what he had to say about year 3. They asked about the year 3 success with his programs. And he said, well, my program's a little bit different than a lot of others. We like to think it's a lot tougher than other people around. And he said, in year 1, it's a shock to the system.
Yes.
So guys are kind of treading water and seeing what's going on, and that's usually a struggle. Year 2 is where they start to hate me. So they have to make the decision. Are you going to stick with it?
Stay or leave.
And be here, or are you going to leave and go do it easier somewhere else? Or is it going to be you're going to take the tough road and stay? And by year 3, basically, those who stay now own the program.
Yeah, you had your
In year
leaders.
1 and 2, it's coach's program. It's coach's way or the highway. By year 3, I want our food tasting better than anywhere else.
Yeah.
I want our beds sleeping better than anywhere else. I want guys walking through our facilities wherever I am thinking this is the place to be. This is our program. We love it.
You speak the same language.
We're going to treat it with care, and we're the ones dictating terms now. And he said once the players take ownership of it in year 3, that's where we take off. And I said, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I like that approach. I like that mindset for him and his program. I think Nebraska's taking off in year 3. And man, do Husker fans need it. It's been a long journey in the wilderness for Nebraska.
Let's put up the top 25 just briefly. 2 programs that, to me, indicate coaching changes potentially. Auburn.
Yeah.
What about where's Oklahoma?
Oklahoma.
With John Mateer.
riding on the backs of John Mateer is what they're doing. They're hoping that guy is a Heisman candidate.
And his system, right?
Yeah.
Can they reproduce what we saw at Vandy, where you just bring the coach with the quarterback and you get the results?
Let me tell you what's going to happen if they make a coaching change at Oklahoma.
Yeah, go ahead.
Josh Heupel's going to get a raise at Tennessee.
Again.
Step 1 of the process is I don't know if Jimmy Sexton reps Josh Heupel, but I'm willing to bet he probably does because he reps almost everyone. And Jimmy Sexton, being the great agent that he is, will get his client a raise, and others more than likely, if that Oklahoma job comes open.